Also, they're recognized by their peers for their contribution in and outside the classroom. One of our panelists today, Professor Paris, this past weekend was recognized by the Collegiate Entrepreneurship Organization, an organization of more than 250 schools from around the country, with the distinction of being the Faculty Advisor of the Year. And that comes on top to the recognition that we received earlier in the summer by the Volusia Business Incubator as the Graduate Ambassador of the Year for Entrepreneurship. All these activities are what makes Stetson this unique place that offers students a unique opportunity, not only to learn skills, but also to put them in practice. And when they graduate, to stand out for what they offer to their employers. And for that, we've chosen three of our colleagues: Bob Gibson, the director of the JJ Master Center; Lou Paris, the director of the Pearson Entrepreneurship Center; and John Ricks, the director of the Centurion Sales Program, who will share with you their initiatives and the exciting things that they're happening in their space. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my good friend, Bob Gibson, who will talk to you about JJ Master Center and Professionalism 2.0. Bob, the floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon now, as of 9 minutes ago. I really appreciate getting to meet all of you guys. As Yorgo said, I'm Bob Gibson. I'm also from the class of 1983. I realize that it's in the last century, but I was in the 100th graduating class of Stetson University. I'm very proud to say that. And so after a long career since that point, I've come back to Stetson to teach and to lead the JJ Master Center for Professionalism. So today I'm going to start off by, I hope everybody can see my slide. Let me try that again. It didn't seem to work. So there we go. How about I click the right button? All right. So I'm going to start off by explaining what the JJ Master Center is all about, and then cover a hot topic at Stetson in the School of Business is the experiential learning requirement, and then how we plan through JJ Masters 2.0 to teach students about 5 qualities that will differentiate them when they hit the workforce later on. So the first thing is, so what is the JJ Master Center? The JJ Master Center our mission is to teach students how to perform with grit and self-reliance, curiosity, overcoming tall impediments with a single bound. We do this through specialized activities and the experiential learning requirement. So the experiential learning requirement is that all Stetson School of Business students, majors, are required to have at least 2 experiences before they graduate. And these experiences come in areas like internships. They're professional internships. They could be either academic internships where they work for a company, they get academic credit, or they can grab an internship on their own and still get ELR credit for these internships. Those are the most common experiences students get. The other is global and community engagement activities. The most common of those is study abroad. Students get experiential learning requirement credit for doing experiences all over the world, and traveling for educational purposes. And the students that get involved in the community engagement certificate program get ELR credit for that. The next thing that will qualify a student for experiential learning requirement credit is campus leadership. It's significant campus leadership, leading organizations, leading major activities of the university. Certain university employment will qualify for experiential learning requirement. And life experience will also give students experiential learning requirements. If they run a business, or if they've had full-time career-based employment for over 2 years, or they've served in the military, they get experiential learning requirement credit for those activities. So those are the primary ways that students get the experiential learning requirement. And remember, every student at Stetson School of Business is required to do 2 of these. If a student transfers with 45 or more hours, we'll give them an exemption for 1, but they still need to have it in that scenario 1 ELR credit in order to graduate. The other thing that JJ Master Center is doing is we're exploring ways to prepare students for their future career. And most importantly, we want to give them the skills that business people like myself were looking for from graduates when they would come and work in my department, looking for people that would be curious and understand what the business, how the business is run, what our product is all about, take initiative to come up with new ideas. And through our activities through JJ Master, we intend to get students involved in activities that will give them those skills to do that. The first one is asking students to explore their world with an open mind, becoming knowledgeable by being curious and being current and understanding what's happening in the world, being a reader, understanding that in order for students to have initiative, to be self-reliant, they need to be knowledgeable. And so through this, we need business leaders and alumni who might have an interest in taking part in these types of discussions and helping students with leading them in current affairs and current discussions, having effective listening exercises. These are all part of what we plan to do with JJ Master. So alumni involvement is very important to this. I have several things that we could use help with in this regard. The next one is the biggest one, teaching students how to network effectively. It's very important that students build a professional network that exposes them to business leaders throughout our community and throughout their industry, their chosen industry. Along with developing effective relationships with leaders in the business world, we want to show them the power of peer-to-peer mentoring, where students talk about their successes, impediments, and solutions to career-based challenges. So we're reaching out to the business community as we speak to build relationships that matter, that can help students connect and become involved with peers in the business community. We want to demonstrate what self-reliance and grit means to a student. We want to make sure that they know their weaknesses, that they understand and can challenge themselves to overcome impediments, not use impediments as a stop, but using impediments as a chance to exceed and excel. We want to help students understand themselves through activities like Strength Finders 2.0 and doing an extensive SWOT analysis of themselves. We want to demonstrate to students how important that self-reliance, grit, and curiosity are to the business community. We want to help them understand their own personal brand. And this comes through not only effective resumes and interview techniques, but we want to teach them the importance of communicating with clarity, both in written and in speaking forms. We want to demonstrate to the students that they are the masters of their own brand, and they are the ones that demonstrate through every activity, every communication that they make, whether it's in written or spoken form, but in appearance, that they are creating a brand for themselves. Students will learn to face their fears and consider moderation in all of their behaviors. We also want to help students learn how to exceed expectations. It's unfortunately in our world today, complacency has become normal, but not here at Stetson. We don't want students to be normal in their careers. We want them to blow away all expectations by always adding value and with relentless preparation. So we'll teach students about important behaviors that make them stand out among their peers and be taken seriously. That's what a student wants more than anything, is to just have a chance and be taken seriously. But being responsive with creativity is the magic sauce for career success and being taken seriously. So you may be asking me, I know I can hear it right now, how can I help? What you can do is you can support the mission of professionalism here at Stetson University. You can support the JJ Master Center with your time, your money, your effort. You can become a mentor to our students. You can help us with mock interviews to sharpen the skills of our students in the interview process. If you have a business, you can hire interns. We're looking for internships. We can use speakers to come and speak of the truth about the business world and how things really work. I call that the ticket to Realville. To our students, speak to them about your business career. It's very important that they hear real stories from real people. And the most important people to hear from are those who graduated even most recently. What you have run into, impediments you've run into in your career, what you felt like you didn't know when you graduated. So we want you to be the resource that you wish you had. Now, I graduated in the 80s, and I have to admit, there are a lot of things I knew when I went into the business world, but a lot of them didn't apply. I learned a lot when I got to running businesses. So if you have any desire to help our students and the JJ Master Center succeed in the mission of professionalism, please contact me. That my email address is on the screen. And if you lose it, you can always reach out and find us. So now it is my distinct pleasure, as I stop sharing my screen, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce a colleague of mine. He's become quite a mentor for me personally as I began teaching. And he is the director of the Prince Entrepreneurship Program. Lou Paris, take it away.
Thank you, Bob. And I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. Boom. And I will put this, see if I can put it on. Well, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'll advance the slides this way. Okay. So I'm going to go a little bit beyond what what angel investors look when investing in startups. And here's the agenda that I have in mind for us for the next 10 minutes. I want to tell you a little bit about a program called the Entrepreneurship Leaders. And the reason why I want to bring it up is because that program led to the Hatter Angels. The Hatter Angels is the program that helps students understand the venture capital world, how it works, how investments are made. And then I'll bring it together with talking about what we foresee, what our vision for the future for the entrepreneurship ecosystem at Stetson is. So I'll move on. When we built the entrepreneurship major and minor at Stetson, we knew that the curriculum would be important, but more important would be the things that happen outside the walls of a classroom. And entrepreneurship is one of those things where magic happens outside the constraints of any, system or box. So the people that you see on the screen are the group of, I don't think it was the first cohort, but one of the first cohorts of students who were actively developing their business ideas. Every single person that you see there during their program, they were actively making their business a reality. And I'll talk a little bit about that. We started the program in the fall of 2017, so you can really say that our first semester was really more like spring 2018. And we have had some great successes. One of the things that we do to help the students further their ideas is to attend business pitch competitions. These are extremely helpful for the students, not only to win cash, as you see on the screen, $6,000 in this case, but also to get feedback from the judges, and the experience itself, forcing you to actually present your idea to a group of peers or judges, makes you think more critically about what you're doing, and taking it, taking the next step more cautiously and more securely at the same time. We have attended a ton of competitions. Hold on, now my computer is thinking. Okay, there we go. We have traveled across the US, and what I systematically see is that we do very well in those competitions. You'll see the roster of finalists are massive universities. Like in this case, Vanderbilt was going up against Chelsea and Kendall, who are on the upper left. And Chelsea took second place, beating out two teams of Vanderbilt PhDs. And her company is actually a nonprofit. So we work with every kind of business idea. We also, you may recognize this logo, that's EO. That's probably one of the most renowned entrepreneurial organizations in the country. Our students, Bryson, in this case on the left, he participated in EO at the state level, and he won, and then he was invited to travel to Silicon Valley. So massive opportunity for him. This one I'm very proud of. This is a picture of two winners in 2000, is it 18? Yeah, 18, for the Innovation Challenge, which takes place in Daytona. You may actually recognize the building if you're local. That's the ATC for Daytona State College. We have won this competition 4 years in a row. And the important thing to note here is not the winning itself, but that every time we attend, we get the same comment, and that is my peers in other universities and investors say that the quality of the Stetson students' presentations and their business acumen is far superior than the competition. Every year we have been told this, and we're systematically performing well because of it. And it's students who are very committed and they're very willing to put in the time to succeed. And if you do the math here, we have won something like $55,000 cash in the last 4 years. And the last competition, by the way, was about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks. We also do well in virtual environments. We had a team of Kendall, Wyatt, and Chris participate in the CEO virtual simulation. They took second place last year. This is a highly competitive event. In fact, this year there were teams from Oman, competing. I mean, all over the world. It's crazy, how many people participate, and they did so well. And I'm proud of the ability of our students to not only do well in person, but also in a more analytical environment with a computer, basically. Okay, the kinds of ideas that we work with, I hinted at saying that, yes, we work with a nonprofit organization, helping students with nonprofit ideas. We also work with digital and physical products like the Herbtastic that you see on the screen, the little gadget. It's a mini rake to strip leaves off herbs. Phenomenal product. And here you see on the screen, possibly, and there's some other products that I'm not showing, but something to the tune of about 10 provisional patent status filings, 3 utility patent filings, which are in the pipeline right now. We have 2 that should be coming to fruition shortly. We have products making it to actual market, which leads to the next slide. We have product from our students on Amazon, Wayfair, SoundCloud, eBay, And I know I'm forgetting more platforms, but I know you recognize these, and of course the Apple Store for virtual products. So the students are not only doing well in, let me use the air quotes, hypothetical academic business pitch competitions, they're performing well in real life. They're doing some big things. In fact, there's so many cool things happening with them right now. In fact, I'm on, I have non-disclosure agreements for 2 students right now that I cannot say what they're working on right now because the deals are so big and so exciting. I'm hopeful that early next year I get to share more with you about that. Not only do we prepare the students for developing businesses and innovating, we also prepare them for jobs. Bryson Pritchard, you saw him previously on a photo, invented a double compartment syringe. He worked in the healthcare industry in an ICU unit. Bryson, while he's still pursuing a licensing agreement for his invention with a partner in Texas, he landed a job with Stryker. It's a healthcare company in DC to the tune of $150,000 a year. He got this job partly because of his ability to present, to communicate, and he learned this at Stetson and the program. So high touch, high experiential learning. We also help students like Nasha actually pursue their business ideas after graduation. Nasha invented an application called Swally. Imagine a digital wallet that where you can actually budget your monthly, your expenses, and you can copy the quote unquote recipe of people who are successful at it. And it's something that is currently being developed. It has attracted a lot of investors' interest. And that leads to the Hatter Angels. So we had this side of the equation covered. We had these students developing phenomenal business ideas, but the other side of this is the people who invest in it, the people who see the opportunity and put money in it for a major exit. And so with the help of 2 prominent alumni, Ben Glunt and Milt Douglas, we put together a pilot program where we basically found a group of 13 students who were willing to learn about venture capital. And in the spring of this year, so in the spring of 2021, these students were taught how to detect the opportunity and how to do due diligence in terms of the actual investment. And over the course of basically a semester, they met with the founders of 16 real startups that were brought to us by Dan and Milt. And we had a competition at the end. The competition was a recommendation, basically, the same way that you would see one at Roland George program, but instead of publicly traded companies, these are startups. So the students presented their case for, hey, we were studying these 3 companies. This is the one that we thought was the best. And we also told them, hey, if you don't like any of them, by all means, tell us that all 3 sucked, okay? And that happened at least once. The students were like, hey, we wouldn't put a finger on any of these companies because it would be crazy. It was a very engaging moment. They got actual feedback from the Hatter Angels. And the Hatter Angels is, think of the Hatter Angels as a group of loosely associated Stetson alumni who are willing to invest in startups recommended by the Stetson students. This was the winner of the spring competition. That was Shane. He did a phenomenal job pitching. It was a very diverse group, I have to say. So Shane is from Tanzania, and he's an international student here. Super savvy, super business savvy, hence he won the competition. But everyone performed so well that the Hatter Angels themselves had a tough time determining who actually won the competition. After the competition, the Hatter Angels got together and they had a meeting to determine the 3 top companies that were presented and pitched, which one, if any, would receive an actual investment. On this picture that you see, and if you look at the date, so that was last week, Guillermo, who's on the right, who was one of the members of that inaugural group, went and he traveled to Atlanta to hand this the proverbial oversized check to Mile Auto for the tune of $120,000. And Guillermo also had the opportunity to be, he's an observer for the board of directors of Mile Auto. Imagine the experience that Guillermo had in this single event. And we're planning on doing this every semester, that every company that it gets invested in, we get a student to be part of the board of directors as an observer. So we decided to do it. It went so well, we said, let's do another pilot. Let's continue to work, to work with the students and continue to learn how to optimize this program. And now we kind of brought the two worlds together. So you remember me talking about Swally a moment ago. So now the students, not only were they vetting businesses, real startups from across Florida, they also got to vet Swally, which was one of our own. The idea is that to the extent that we have companies that we feel that are viable for investment, we put them in front of the Hatter Angels, and they can, assess the opportunity. That also led to traveling to the Florida Venture Forum. Think of this as a Super Bowl of venture capital in Florida. And here you see both groups together. You see representatives of the Prince leaders, the same way that you see representatives of the Hatter Angels, all together discussing the same event from two different perspectives, from the perspective of the investor and the perspective of the founder. So their conversations were awesome. It was really great to see the energy from those two different angles. And for the future, this is how I wrap it up. These two programs, we believe, starting on the upper right, these are phenomenal, very exquisite experiential learning opportunities for the students. When they complete either program, they have been out there. They have had real business conversations. They have encountered basically the real world. And that will create differentiation for us as a university. I believe that students will start coming to Stetson University because of these programs. Differentiation will lead to more demand, more students coming, more revenue for the university. And, I would like to think that will help us be more selective, to bring high caliber students. I am proud to report right now that my Prince leaders, even though I increased the number of students who were in the program to almost double it, because now I'm at 20, all the GPAs, if you base it solely on GPAs, are super high. We're talking anywhere from 4.9 something to 3 point something. And of course, being entrepreneurs, you have to reckon with the fact that you have people who are not great at academics, but they're awesome at developing businesses. So I do have a couple of 2 point something, but they're so engaged. Higher placement rates and higher salaries. So that's a vision for the future. Now, one thing that I'll ask you is, please, you were hearing all this, and hopefully there was something that I said that you connected with, whether you're alumni or you're a student. Please go now in the chat and type one thing that you could think you can plug yourself in or contribute. I'm not going to hold you to it, so try to put something there. I'll reach out to you later and we can have a conversation, but give me your best guess how we can connect. And so I'll make a brief pause there and catch my air because I was going at the speed of light. I was throwing information your way. And it's my pleasure to introduce the next speaker. John Riggs is someone who I've worked with in the past a lot. We see things sometimes a lot the same way, which is kind of cool that we talk about topics together, especially anything business related. And he has a phenomenal program with the Centurion professional sales program. John, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Lou. Do me a favor and unshare your screen real quick, and I'm gonna.
Sorry, I was trying. I couldn't find the button. And
no worries. And before I go to that, just real quick, I got to get a little dose of Lou about once a week, or I feel left out. Nice job, man. You and Bob both. It's great to work as colleagues with all of you. It's really good to see some of the familiar names, and I see some former class alums in the sales program, of which I have the pleasure of leading. So it's really great to see many of your names on here as well. I see Kaylee, I saw Chris earlier and such. So good to see the both of you. My job for the next 10 minutes or so, I thought the best way to talk about what we do here at the Centurion Sales Program is to kind of bring you a little bit into not only just the curriculum and how we present what we talk about here in the program, but to also talk about what we're starting to hear more and more from out in the business community, which is what really led me to, in many ways, the title of this slide. So my initial, gut reaction is the Centurion Sales Program, the major and the minor in what we do. And that's clearly our purpose. A big purpose of what we do is on the academic side in preparing students. But the topic of this slide was really specifically thought out to really identify what I run into and what my colleague, Dr. Dina Hale, runs into almost on a daily basis. And we get asked this a lot about how do you persuade, influence, perspectives, promote an idea. And it's always interesting how many times people will leave out the word sell. So it's, I guess, but in some people's mindset, still a tough word to get over because of a lot of negative connotations and things that we see about selling. But it is literally what we do in our program here is about persuading, influencing, and selling. And it's helpful sometimes to really delineate what that definition really is. So I want to talk about it just briefly. And when I talk to, and those of you that I know, and I see many familiar names on here, so it's great to see your, at least your names and some of you, your faces. I would have what most people would refer to today as a STEM background. My background was all, I at one time carried a medical licensure in emergency medicine. I worked in biotech, did drug discovery, clinical research, all what you would call a STEM type background. And we used to have this conversation a lot in our world in practice before I got into academia. So practically speaking, it really is basically kind of the view you're coming from and how you view your business, your work, your job, your purpose on which one of these definitions you probably subscribe to most. And there's some real interesting analogies. So real quick, not to bore you with a lot of words, but if you just glance at the main topics here of what is somewhat a widely accepted or commonly accepted definition of, quote, influencing, you're seeing where in middle of part of this, where it says each party learns about their respective needs and seeks to satisfy those needs by offering the other party an opportunity to obtain something of value. There's a lot of definitions for these, but if you flip the page and you pull up a commonly accepted definition of selling, it's wildly similar, where basic premise behind it is when you're having these conversations, what is it and the skill set to be able to understand what and uncover the needs of another person, entity, business, what have you, and then do what you can to provide value in that type of service. So what we spend time doing in our program with our students and with outside organizations, and I'll speak to that in a minute. We have some outside organizations that partner with us to work with us to help, but we also provide them with some training in this on occasion. But there is a process. And one of the big debates in academia is selling actually a rigorous academic, pursuit? Is that something that is rigorous that falls under a degree program? And I'm probably misstating this because I have a kind of a myopic view and a bias towards what we do. But in the academies and stuff that I have the privilege of going to on the academic side, these programs are growing constantly at universities across North America and internationally for that matter. And what I mean by that is the argument that's being made academically is whatever you're studying, be it the entrepreneurship stuff, be it more of one of a technical business discipline, accounting, finance, outside of the School of Business, the argument that's being made is this, what we do in our program is an enabling set of skills and an enabling body of knowledge that allows you to be the best at whatever that is you choose to do. So many of our students will either double major in whatever they're studying and add this as a second major, or they'll add this content as a minor. And that's kind of what we're seeing in our real growth in the program. So there's a process behind it. And I always like to share this as a visual as it relates to, people's perspective. So Kaylee and others that are on here, you've probably seen this 1,000 times. So here's 1,001. But this visual was shared with me years ago, and I found great value in it. And if you're trying to sell, promote, persuade an idea, this was actually shared with me by a medical director when I was way back young in like an early EMT school, I think, even before paramedic and other stuff. And the physician said, you guys are struggling because you're struggling with understanding other people's perspectives and trying to understand where they're coming from and their needs and wants, which is a strong foundation of being successful in persuading, influencing, or selling. And in that context, it was clearly about us as medical providers to try to influence patients, if you will, to follow, medical protocols, to follow up with their medicines. And me as an ambulance person, hey, come with me to the hospital, as opposed to suffering through something and them not thinking it's of need. So what she did was had this real interesting box, didn't show us what was on the inside. She had two boxes, one for part like 10 of our students, the other side for the other 10. And my side of the room had a little kind of hole you could look in, call it a peephole with a little piece of fabric. She said, drop that side, look in the side of the box and tell me what you see. So if you look in the side, kind of like what you all are looking at here, one might say you're looking at something shaped as a triangle. Unbeknownst to us, same box, same object in the box on the other side of the room, except they had a perspective, or kind of a peephole, if you will, at the top instead. She asked them to do the same thing and said, what do you see? And as you can let your imagination run a little bit, if you look down at that shape from the top, you might say circle. So you got half saying circle, half saying triangle. And she made it a really strong, resounding point with me of the application of what this was. Who's right? Well, it kind of depends on your perspective. So with that as a backdrop, what we spend a lot of time doing is teaching this process. And there's a million of them out there. And if any of you have worked in the area of sales, or you're selling in your company, or whatever it is you're doing, you'll see a similar step process. And what we do, and I don't have time today to go through all of it, but we basically dive very deeply in a practical sense in these 5 areas. And this is where we live for the entire academic curriculum through that. So if they're in a 16-week semester, this is where we live. Ultimately, trying to get us to the end of an action taking place. If you're in the business world, somebody closing the deal, somebody signing the deal. For Lou and all of you, somebody to write that check to invest in the idea. So that's a really strong process that we try to develop. And then what we do is have realized, when you back into it, that this core idea is also foundational to that process. And again, I don't have the time to spend here, but it's pretty well understood and accepted that in order for any of these things to come to fruition, there is a very high level of professional trust that is accomplished. So again, our students, and as we walk through this, and if we work with companies, we work through this little model very carefully so that people have that opportunity to understand how you earn trust. And as you're looking at it here, you may be thinking about, do I trust so-and-so, or a person or a colleague or a business colleague or something? And the way that it is typically done is on the far left, we first evaluate, is this an expert that we're speaking with? The very next place our brain goes is, okay, if they're an expert, check that box. Are they oriented to my world? In other words, have they walked a mile in my shoes, or are they on their own agenda pushing something they want to push? So are you an expert? Yes. Do you understand my world? Yes. The third one is, are you dependable? Very straightforward. Do what you say you're going to do and exceed that. You can control a lot of that. The fourth one is candor. And I'll just pause for 30 seconds to explain that just a moment in this context. In professional selling especially, if you say someone's not being candid with you, you automatically, you'll hear people come back with terms like, well, that means they're not telling you the truth, or they're lying, or something along that. That's probably the answer on the test. But in the real world, candor in this environment is by omission. So what we're seeing is that if you didn't ask me, therefore I didn't tell you, you're omitting that. So therefore you're not being candid with me. So it's largely by omission. And the last one is compatibility. And it happens so fast to learn how to do that and to be able to apply it. So we spend a ton of time talking about this, talking about all of these elements on how you earn trust, which really is the foundation for it. And kind of my last thoughts here was, this model that you're seeing is something that was shared with me probably 20 years ago or more when I was in practice in a large corporation. And I see it to be true today. And when people say, you have a whatever, maybe this wonderful outgoing personality, you would be fantastic in sales. And that to me is a really incorrect approach or statement. And the reason I say that is, it typically boils into these 4 areas on this matrix. The left side that shows work ethic, relationships, trust, rapport, a lot of companies will tell you, maybe some of you here that are in companies or own a company will tell you, that is usually what someone, quote unquote, hires to. They're hiring to that. The other side's ability to influence, or your knowledge of whatever that product or market is, can be taught. And this is where it flies in the face of where somebody's just got a wonderful personality, they'd be great in sales. The behind the scenes kind of, code word, we call those people professional visitors. Everybody loves them and everything occurs, but nothing happens as it relates to moving the business. And we've learned this because being able to, if you're quote, selling or influencing, this is what the clients tell us. Research tells us this, it'll tell us this practically. Notice what's common in what you see on these 4 bullet points. Determines my needs, feels my situation's important, solves my problems, always recommends what's best for me. Me, my. That implies we have to spend and learn how to really understand what's going on and try to solve the needs of them and not push our own agenda. So this is a real kind of quick flavor of the things that we talk about, which then branches us into the importance of how important it is that we communicate. And I've seen some of these pitches from Lou and his team, and they're amazing. And I would argue that their ability to communicate is very, very high, if not off the charts. And most people will subscribe to these data. And let me explain this just real quick. I think everybody knows what these things are, right? So about 7% out of 100 are the actual words you speak. About 55 or so, depending upon the data you look at, but more than half are all the body language stuff, the nonverbals and how you present yourself. Very, very important. And then the tonality, how you say something. And with our students, I always demonstrate it this way. How are you today? How are you today? Right? So you could say things separately, words are the same, but here's where I kind of spin it on someone's thinking to really impress something in sales, and especially for companies. A lot of times there's a saying called we wing it. We go in there because we know it so well. The way I interpret these data is a little bit different. People would look at this and say the words are the least important. My argument is that they're probably the most important. And I know this isn't academically nor statistically correct to explain it this way, but I see this as a practitioner of 25 years or more. You only have a 7% chance of selecting the right words. Now, all of a sudden, your words are really important. So we really embrace that in the program by having students not only practice it practically, but go through the motions in a laboratory setting and so forth. And I'm proud to announce, and these aren't totally up to date, but just to give you a flavor, like Lou, we launched back in the fall of 2017, really got up and running that following spring. As many of you know, there's a major, many of our students double major. They can major solely in this and then also minor. And we've got now north of over 100 total sales alumni, if my numbers are correct, based on just my back of the napkin tracking. And it's no joke, no puffery here, that there is literally a 98% job placement. And part of the argument is that 2% are people that go on to advance their education in graduate school or otherwise. We're proud of our students. Many of our students, we share students, a lot of Lou's entrepreneurship students and others, either minor or double major in what we're doing as well. So it's a really nice blend. And how we do that in closing is translating knowledge into practice. We do a lot of real boardroom work. We also have these wonderful simulation labs. And this is what I'm going to close with. This is where the students go in and literally simulate with real clients, real customers. You see on this one door where this former graduated student, some of you may recognize, Gavin, he's now working for GlaxoSmithKline and having an incredible career. But each one of these rooms is labeled with some outside corporate sponsors. And that's what I wanted to close with, is to say when we get in these labs, we simulate the environment. We actually integrate and bring in representatives from the companies that sponsor our labs and help us and help the students with their, in many cases, of experiential learning with their organizations and companies. And we do the coaching in these labs, either with myself and our faculty or with real managers and leaders from the company. So that makes it really, really special. And what we're doing, much like Lou, and this is happening in 2 days, this is a competition. We do national and international collegiate sales competitions. We got a team of 6 that are staying here to about 8 o'clock every night the past 2 weeks and the coming 2 weeks. And we are going to our competition. It'll be virtual this year, which is what it was last year. And they will compete internationally. Last year in this competition, 168 universities, total aggregated score, Stetson finished 13th. So we couldn't be more proud of our students competing against some incredible universities, very large universities and great programs. And we did an incredible job and expect to do the same. So with that, I want to leave you with this. We are so proud to announce recently, and as you all know, our location here in DeLand, a formal partnership with corporate NASCAR. And it's called Nascar University. And this is actually an idea of the head of group sales, VP of group sales over at NASCAR, one of our students. Some of you may know Cedric Burkhart, proud to talk about him. He helped us form and foster this partnership. So I could sit and talk about it a lot, but if you would indulge me for about 3 or 4 minutes, I'm going to stop this screen share. And I want to share with you a video where myself and Cedric were interviewed by a morning news show in Austin, Texas called Good Day Austin. And I'm going to try to share that and bring that sound in for you. So let's give that a go.
Teamed up with Stetson University School of Business Sales program to give students some hands-on experience with the business side of racing. John Riggs, director of Centurion Sales Program at Stetson, and recent graduate Cedric Burkhart here this morning to talk about it. Thanks both of you for joining me this morning.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Tell us a little bit about the program first off.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nascar University was developed by the director of group sales at NASCAR, and being conveniently located, Stetson University, about 20 miles inland from the Daytona International Speedway, there was a partnership that was created with our students who are majoring and minoring in professional selling. So what they learn in the classroom, they get an opportunity to go arm in arm with the professionals in group sales at NASCAR. So as an example, the recent Daytona 500 program, the race that was there, we had a cohort of students go down, take what they've learned in the classroom, and then see it not only from just idea and initiation, all the way through to the execution at the track with the group sales professionals. It's an incredible experiential learning experience for them for application of what they're learning.
Yeah, I was about to say, it sounds like a really cool program. First of all, the major in the field of study actually sounds applicable to go out and get a job to make some money, and then to be able to apply it while in the class. I mean, you know, what a concept for some, compared to some other college programs. Cedric, what was your experience?
My experience was great. So I entered college as an international business major and then flopped around quite a bit and ended up choosing sales and marketing as my major. And I can say confidently that having that sales major, going through the Centurion sales program, gave me so much wisdom in the outside world and how to really interact with people. So you take a lot of quantitative courses in college, and a lot of qualitative courses, and going through the sales program really taught me how to communicate, how to persuade, how to influence behaviors, and really how to interact with people.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be gifted in that a little bit to some degree too, but that's a tough thing to learn, to kind of build up that muscle, even if you're predisposed to that, heading toward that major. You just got to get out there. So a program like this goes a long way. And NASCAR is such a big brand to do that as well. That's a pretty big partnership.
Yeah, the NASCAR partnership is great. So again, big kudos to David Campbell, the director of group sales at NASCAR, for allowing us to partner with him. And I was lucky enough to take our students to the Speedway for the Rolex 24 all the way through to the Daytona 500. And I can say that all of them, even if they weren't race fans, had just the time of their lives. A lot of students went in not knowing anything about NASCAR or about racing, or even very little about sales. And they came out with their minds blown. They had no idea that this area of sales or sports business operated in this way. And it really gave them a lot of experiential learning, which is a hallmark of our education at Stetson, and really allowed them to decide, is this something I want to pursue? And some of the students even figured out that, no, this is not what I want to do, which is also a really valuable learning experience.
Yeah, that really is. Absolutely. It's not all about what you do. It's about what you don't do. So that can help. I'll put this question to both of you, but I know, Cedric, you just recently graduated. What a tough time to get out into the workforce. It's been tough to do everything over the last 12 months or so. I'm sure this program might have helped even more to get you ready.
Absolutely. So COVID hit 2 months before I was due to graduate. And I did graduate, but it really impacted the job market. So I was lucky enough to spend a couple years with Mazda Motorsports, which is how I got into racing. And I was looking at hopefully going to work with them, or hopefully with a series. And then COVID just decimated the racing industry. But I was fortunate enough to have a great relationship with Dr. Riggs, who served as my mentor and advisor at Stetson. He approached me and offered me this job, and really fortunate that I could do this and also pursue my MBA alongside.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations to you for that. And John, I'll just let you wrap it up by telling how can people learn more about this or get connected with this program?
Yeah, absolutely. Just Stetson's website, you can search the Centurion Sales Program and see everything that's listed there, all the degree requirements and my personal contact information.
Wonderful. John Riggs and Cedric Burkhart, thank you both very much for your time, and continued good luck to both of you.
So I'll stop with there. Thank you for allowing me to share that with you. I'm just personally so proud of Cedric, and many of the faculty on here probably had Cedric in a class or two. But to watch that young man grow and to see what he's doing now, and he's just this December will be completing his MBA. Our phones exploded after that, and it was so funny. Everything was coming from Texas. They have a track there. But just again, so proud, and I appreciate all of you allowing me the opportunity to share that with you, and just such a great program and the opportunity to be able to teach it here. So I'll stop with that, and I guess maybe back over to you, Dean Bacamitzos.
Thank you, John. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope you were able to get a glimpse of what makes Stetson this unique place, and why we believe that we give our students these unparalleled learning experiences. If you've been following what is happening in the higher education landscape, you will notice that it's hard to compete on content. The way that debits and credits work at Stetson is exactly the same way that debits and credits work in any other institution. The 4 P's of marketing are the same here at Northwestern, at Stanford, or at any other school around the world. What makes our school unique is not the content that we teach, it's how we teach it. It's the ability to build relationships with your faculty, who become from just sources of disseminating knowledge to mentors who allow our students to have exceptional careers moving forward. Building relationship with our staff who care about your future and how you can go out there and lead lives of significance. So I'm happy to take any questions, as all my colleagues, if you have any questions. And I want once again to thank you for taking the time to join us.
Yes, thank you all for a great presentation. If anybody has any questions or comments for any of our presenters today, feel free to drop those in the chat now, or you can unmute yourself and ask away. Current students, if anybody is left on the call, I did drop in the chat just a minute ago a survey that I'm just going to have any current students complete to get your cultural credit for attending this event. Just look through the chat and find that survey. If you complete that, you'll get your cultural credit. And then I did have one question come in that we can kind of kick it off with as we see some great comments coming in the chat. And I'll open this up to all of our presenters. This is a question we got asked on a different event last night, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you've seen students adapt in the last 18 months, especially with all the challenges they've had to face to continue, driving through and putting out the great work that they're doing in the classroom.
So I'll take the first crack on that, and then I'll have John and Lou, who are here, also kind of respond. We have some other faculty colleagues on the call. I see Bud Hansen here. Bob Gibson was talking about the value of professionalism and the skills that we're teaching our students inside and outside of the classroom. And being able to adapt is a very valuable skill. I often tell students who come and see me and talk to me about problems that they have with teammates if they're in a group project, that look, this is a additional learning opportunity that you get, managing kind of relation with other people, and we don't even charge you for that. That's free of charge, and it's good to learn these things here than to learn them when you're out working and everything kind of counts. Our students have learned how to be resilient. They've learned how to adapt. It hasn't been easy, but it has been very successful. We all in the spring of 20, we all quickly pivoted from a primarily face-to-face institution to become a completely online institution. And our faculty tried really hard, and our students tried really hard, and the results kind of showed that. And we continue to ask everyone to adapt to the conditions that are imposed upon us, and the results have been tremendous. I'll have John and Lou kind of give their perspective from their classes, and what I see makes me very happy, not because of what we've done, but of the skills that our students have developed and how this will help them moving forward.
John, you want to go first or me? Okay. I have to echo a lot of what our dean has already voiced. Were there significant changes? Yes. Do we all have to adapt to it? Yes. And I have to say that it was, at least in my courses, successful. We found ways. It was about iteration. We tried one thing and it didn't quite work perfectly. Then we tweaked it. Then it was a continuous improvement process. And I think to this date, it hasn't stopped. So not only have they learned, we have learned also how to handle this situation more efficiently. Students, they were, at least from the entrepreneurial side, it gave my students a little bit of the freedom to develop some of their ideas more freely. If you're taking an online class and you're working from home, that you can kind of get into your head and explore a little more solutions. So it's been different. I'm not going to say better or worse. It's been different, but the important thing is that we were able to push through.
Yeah, I think the thing that I would add to that is, I felt like we were running parallel in what we're doing here at the university as to what many businesses were doing. And what was so interesting was I try to keep, just like many of my colleagues, a close ear to the ground or foot in their door in working with businesses and stay current in doing what we're doing. And it was so interesting because so many of them, while we're not perfect, we're figuring it out as we could go. Many of them were actually asking myself and some of my colleagues, how are you doing that? And what are you doing? While we're not perfect at what we were doing, but we were running parallel to what exactly every company, many of the companies were also dealing with. So that was a real opportunity to bring that into an experiential learning. I keep going back to that with Bob's, talk on this about how that makes sense. And what was so interesting was, not every business, I always look at the highlights. I'm a positive person, but oh my gosh, you're going to have students that are trained on how to operate in some of these platforms, how to handle these issues, how to do that when they come out. And that's going to add value to us right away, as opposed to what we may be finding internally where maybe there was either some opposition or fight to it, or just the reality of how difficult some of these changes are. So it's a matter of dealing with what we have, square around with it. What do we do with what we have? Solve a problem and run parallel to what companies are doing and highlight it in that regard. And students, I'm just proud of them all. We've had our bumps and stuff, but we're on the other side of much of this, and in many ways seen as being quite good at it. The students are.
Absolutely. Thank you all for sharing on that. And I know it is just past 1 o'clock, so I don't want to keep everybody. I know everybody's busy. If you have to get going with your day, please feel free to do so. Again, thank you to all for joining this event. One more time for any current students, I'm going to drop that link to the cultural credit survey in the chat here. So you can grab that one more time, just fill that out, you'll get your cultural credit. I look forward to seeing everyone at the rest of the homecoming events throughout the week. We've got some great events lined up, reunions in the evenings the rest of the week, presidential inauguration of Dr. Rolke we're very excited about. So a lot of great events still on the schedule. Look forward to seeing everyone. And as a graduate of the business school myself, I'm very lucky to know many of the professors out of the school and Yorgos as well. The great work that they do with our students, they just are amazing. Our students are amazing, but it takes great faculty and the great support that we can provide as well. So thank you all for your presentation today, and thank you all for everything you do for our students. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.